Hey, welcome to Cam Does Data, where I help aspiring analysts move on from just endless tutorials to getting real, actual, tangible skills that they can use to break into the world of data. So this is one of my SQL series where we kind of go through a SQL problem, and instead of just like, oh, here's the answer, we're going to break it down step by step to really understand like the logic behind the query. Now here's Hackerrank. Now there's a ton of different places where you can learn SQL. There's Khan Academy is probably my favorite for like really introductory SQL questions. It guides you like through step by step and then like grows and makes the query more complicated as you're going through it. There's Web3 schools, there's LeetCode, there's all kinds of ones. I really like Hackerrank when you get to the more advanced level, just because the way they structure the questions, it's not very well guided, I guess. Now, like, it's just poorly structured, which sounds like a bad thing, but I think it's a good thing because that kind of simulates real world where the ask that you've been given by somebody, a client or a boss or whatever, stakeholders, it's not always structured in a way that's very clear what they're looking for. So you kind of have to look at the ask and figure out and break it down. Now, I find a lot of questions on Hackerrank are like that. So let's go ahead and look at the question. So this is marked as an intermediate question. Query an alphabetically ordered list of all names in occupations, immediately followed by the first letter of each profession as a parenthetical. So basically, an actor's name and then A, a doctor's name and then D. So we want to find where they're a doctor and put right here parentheses D. So it'll look just like this, Samantha D. And then we want to query the number of occurrences that each occupation in occupations and sort by occurrences in ascending order. And we want to have them output like that. So first, let's switch to MySQL. And then I guess just to get a quick little look at the data, we can just look at name, occupation, from occupations. Now it's a good idea to not query and like tie up all the resources, so don't hit everything. So we're just looking at 3 here. So yeah, pretty straightforward, just like this. So what we want to do is, find the profession and put the P there. So we can easily do this with a case statement. So let's do case when occupation equals professor, then we can concat, so it'll add the name and then a P with the parentheses. So every time the occupation is professor, it'll concat together the name and then the parentheses P. And we want to do this for every single occupation, obviously. So doctor, actor, and what was the other one? Singer. We make sure we have these correctly. Yeah, just the first letter is capital. So doctor is D, actor is A, singer is S. Now, let's just double check and make sure that that is working correctly. And looks like we made a mistake. Oh, well, we have to end our case statement. And as, let's call it name. There you go. So it's doing that correctly. And then what we want is this down here. Now, it has all of this in one column. The only way to really do that is a union. A union will automatically get rid of duplicates. Union all will not. There is no duplicates. There's no worry for either of those. So we can just do union. So now what we want is the case, or not the case, the count. So let's just look real quick. We want the count of all, which you can put a star in parentheses, from occupations. And then we want to group by. You need to group if you're doing an aggregation, obviously. We're grouping by occupation. Let's just double check that works. So there we go, 7434. All right. So, but now instead we want it to say there are a total of, and then the count, and then the occupation. So let's keep that count there just for a second. So we want to concat again, just like up here. We want to concat, there are a total of, so put that in quotes, there are a total of, put a space, then we'll put our count, a total of count, and then we want occupation. So it'll say there are a total of, oh, actually we want a space there as well. Space, all right. That way it doesn't squish it all together. There are a total of count, and then we want the occupation, and then we need an S over there. And then actually this has a capital and this looks like a lower. So the easiest way to do that, just to make it lowercase, is do lower occupation and then an S. And then we can undo this. That way we're union, and union just basically stacks all the data on top of each other. So it'll give us all the names with that parenthetical, and then it'll give the count that we just did right there. Also, when you do a union, the group by will basically, we can take this limit off. The group by will group on for both unions, and then it'll union them. So you can just put one group by at the bottom. Let's see what we missed here. I think it was because I had that limit in there. Yep, perfect. All right, so now we're getting it incorrect. I think they also want this period here, so we'll just put that after the S. And then we also need to order by the name. There's one little issue with this, and this is just, again, the case of Hackerrank just not well structured. To actually order by these, by the count, you have to do this a little differently. But this will solve it, just to keep it simple. Now, again, so we're doing the union, we're doing the case by, we're taking the occupation, adding that P, then we're unioning, we're getting the count, we're saying there are a total of, then putting that count, putting a space, taking the lower of occupation, that way we get the lower, and then putting just S, that way it says doctors, professors, and then we're grouping by occupation and ordering by name. This will group and order both queries, and then when it unions them. I'll show you real quick, just one little way you could do, we could basically do the concat up here instead of the case, just to make it, you know, I guess a cleaner query that's a little bit shorter. We can do a concat, and then what we want is the name. If you spell, shouldn't matter, but name, and then we want that little left parenthesis. Then we want the first letter of the occupation. So occupation, and the best way to get the first letter, starting from the left, go one character, which is that's what left will do. It'll go one character. Well, it'll go whatever amount of characters you put right here. And then we'll put that little right parenthesis, and as name. Let me make sure I got that right. Name, I'm putting the left parenthesis, occupation, name. That should work right there. Let's check it and see. I missed something right there. Name one. Oh, got an extra comma there. Oh, I actually want that comma outside. Right there. Comma that. There. All right, that should work right there. So there you go. A much cleaner, shorter way instead of doing the case win. The case win is just a little easier to understand. And that's pretty much everything for this problem. Yeah, if you have any questions, go ahead and leave it in the comments. You can follow me on LinkedIn or subscribe here on YouTube. And I'll see you next time.